Hi, I'm Max Shulklapper, and this is a Kirkwood Call podcast about political topics in our society today. Here we have a couple guests, and they are...
I'm Ashton Cowie.
David Reynolds.
Daniel Stobbe.
Interesting. So we're going to talk about Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump. Ashton, what is your opinion on these two somewhat divisive figures in politics today?
Yeah, I'd say divisive is definitely a word that we're going to use for both of them. Well, to start off with Bernie Sanders, he associates as an independent with the Democratic Socialist Party, which isn't actually a party.
Not a political party.
It's not even a party.
He is a Democratic Socialist that is running on the Democratic ticket, but in many ways is an outsider ideologically from that party, which is...
By party I meant ideology.
All right.
Democratic Socialist. Just with that title alone, what you just said, I think that is a deterrent, a divisive nature, for many voters, especially those leaning more conservative. As soon as they see that word socialist or associate Bernie Sanders with a socialist background, they're instantly not going to vote for him, no matter his policies. I think a lot of his economic policies are destructive. They hurt small businesses along with big business. We know that big business can get out of control sometimes, and some, sprinkled regulation is necessary, but a lot of his really hurt small businesses also. And as a small business owner, I will not be voting for Bernie Sanders, I can tell you that.
All right, so if you look at polls of younger Americans, in terms of favorability of certain words, in terms, socialist is a much more favorable word to most young Americans than, say, capitalism is, in fact. So the fact that he's a socialist may deter older voters, which, to be fair, are a big, voting bloc, but the trend you can see in voting today is that socialist is becoming less and less a sort of a slander word and more an acceptable term. And so while Bernie might not be the best candidate right now, the trends are that that his views represent the growing majority of Americans in a lot of ways. And in terms of small businesses, what we see in Bernie Sanders is someone that is strongly fighting for people with lower income brackets and people that want to own businesses in the future but right now can't. So he does oppose billionaires, millionaires, CEOs. He wants to regulate Wall Street more, which Obama has failed to do. But in terms of allowing people to enter that category that Ashton's part of, where you own a small business, he's giving opportunities for that. And so you have to consider it in terms of opportunity as well as just current economic status.
Obama was one that promised he would help bolster the middle class. He'd help get people out of poverty, and he did the exact opposite. So how can we trust another candidate, even more radically liberal, that will help do the same thing that Obama didn't?
Well, first of all, Obama's not radically liberal.
I said even more liberal.
Okay. When Barack took office, he failed to regulate Wall Street. He made the same mistakes Bush made, and I would argue that he is entirely centrist economically. Bernie Sanders is far less corrupt than Obama is. He's not nearly as in the pocket of interest groups, super PACs, Wall Street. And so he has more leeway in making these changes because he isn't bound to the same power brokers economically as Obama has been. And even if he can't get everything he wants to do done, but he's in these debates and he's putting out this message that no one said before. No one is arguing for as radical positions as Bernie is, and this needs to be said because Americans are ready for it.
It seems like kind of almost a progressive platform, not in the sense of the early 1900s, and that they're sick of large business, and I can see where that kind of angst comes from among the American people. But after 8 years of 16 years of failed economic policy, 8 years of the Bush administration who did little, and then you have the Obama administration which failed in getting the middle class out. You have to either go a more radical route. The voters want either something more conservative, which we'll talk about Donald Trump in a second, or way more liberal when we're talking about Bernie Sanders. So we're doing transition into Donald Trump.
Sure.
This is a hot topic.
I think we should talk about Hillary.
Oh, okay.
Oh, God, Hillary.
Trump or Hillary
So
first?
I think everyone here agrees that Hillary is probably the most flip-flopping, opportunistic politician in American politics today. She will support anything that will get her votes and anything that will get her money from Wall Street. And both sides can agree right now around this table that Hillary Clinton is a self-serving politician that is not good for America, essentially.
It's incredible just how much support she won from our Young Democrats Club last year. They actually had probably over 200 little tiny Hillary Clintons lined all around their board. Yeah. They were excited. And then what the media does, surprisingly in this place against a more liberal candidate, although she hasn't always been very liberal, especially socially.
Not at all.
She was very against gay marriage
She was.
back in the time, which
She'll support anything that is popular at the time. She goes to
takes
no
voters.
stands.
Doesn't she even have like a Snapchat story
Yes, she
account?
does. It's
She's
hilarious.
Just
It's hilarious.
blatantly trying to catch millennials as
Yeah,
voters.
exactly.
I think that's pretty entertaining.
She's so opportunistic.
And she also makes like 500 times the average American. Like she has a lot of money.
Exactly.
Now, as much as Donald Trump, no, but she does have a lot of money, and
But
it's
here's the
hard for her to
difference.
relate with those Americans in poverty who came out of poverty in a way that a candidate like Barack Obama did.
Bernie Sanders.
Or Bernie Sanders, or a candidate like Marco Rubio.
But here's the difference with this. Donald Trump, at least, is open about the blatant, insane corruption that he practices, whereas Hillary practices the exact same
Wait,
thing.
what did he say?
He said,
I've broken the law many times or something?
I've given money to everyone on this stage. Now, Hillary has too, I'm sure, but she's not going to say that, because she plays the game. She plays the political game, and that's how she's ahead. But most Americans
And
are
she's got a
tired
big
of that.
name, too.
Americans
She does.
like Bernie, and for some reason, Americans a couple weeks ago were liking Trump. Not because he's
No, Bernie is not polling higher than Donald Trump right now.
No, but Trump is a fad. Trump is a protest vote.
I do think so. I do, just like these nuts.
Exactly, just like these nuts.
But can I see Bernie Sanders, a person who identifies with the word socialist, winning
as do a growing number of Americans.
any vote above the age of 28? No.
In this election,
I cannot think. Millennials will
And
determine
this-
this election. That is true. But there's enough votes on the upper spectrum with all the baby boomers, everything like that. This is going to be a huge election.
Oh, I agree.
There's going to be so many people. I think that there's going to be a huge turnout this election. The word socialist is going to be his absolute downfall. Now, if he were to kind of
10 years
try
from
to
now?
change his identity,
10 years from now,
possibly not. But we
socialist
see
will not be a derogatory term because
we see.
the growing trend is socialist is a positive word. And right now, I would agree with you.
Do you have any polls that support
yes,
that?
I do have polls. I do not have them with me right now, but I will show them to you later because there is the word socialist polls a higher favorability than the word capitalist.
Among
as of
young people.
2009 or 10, one of those two. Among young people, yes.
Among young people.
Older generations, I agree right with that. But looking at overall trends, the next 10, 20 years, it's becoming more and more okay to be socialist.
Young
and Bernie
people-
represents that trend.
Young people, we're talking college-age kids who have just got out of Berkeley, UCLA, places where they're incubated and like seeped in liberal socialist policies, which is
I like that.
I can't really say that they are fit to serve their country, or not serve, excuse me, lead their country right out of college.
Poison their country with Bolshevism.
I wasn't about to say
Interesting
that.
you mentioned college, though, because one of Bernie's main platform points is he would like to provide state four-year college tuition for any public university students, and that is something that any liberal conservative, any young American is going to say that is a good policy. That is not a partisan issue. That is a basic human rights equality issue that
I don't
anyone,
think-
even if you are a libertarian, an extreme conservative, everyone is right to the same education, same opportunities, and college provides that. And what Bernie wants to do, which nobody else is offering that same equal shot at a good education.
I think we do offer a same good shot at not higher education yet, but at high school. Education is the key out of poverty. As a conservative, I can say that. I think obviously a lot of liberals agree with that too.
And is college not a huge part of that?
It is, but we already have. There's so many unclaimed scholarships every single year from not only corporations but from state level, from the FAFSA, with federal aid.
FAFSA.
It is going to community college, which is I think what we're talking about here, is affordable.
No, it is any public college.
Any
It's
public
disclaimer.
college.
Any public
Okay, well
college.
I think a community college education is easier than you think it is to get with any effort.
And the
in
community
high
college
school.
education,
Any
you
effort.
the same opportunities as a full.
But it's a good jump
four-year
start.
education.
It's better
a good
than
jump
no
start.
college
But we
education.
can do the whole thing. Bernie has a plan that is supported
Who's
by.
going to pay for that?
Okay, you can make small cuts in other areas and small changes in other areas.
You're considering
Raise
cutting
taxes.
stuff?
I'm considering raising taxes in
is
certain areas.
interesting.
There are certain programs I think should be reformed.
You want to get
Okay, I'm on
Social
board
Security,
with
for
this.
example?
If you're making cuts,
Take
then
Social
yeah,
Security.
let's do it.
Take Social Security, remove the income cap on paying into Social Security, and all of a sudden you have that is solvent, first of all, but also the government as a whole is more solvent. There's a lot of ways you can make minor changes and pay off these. Bernie Sanders would not raise the deficit. You would readjust our priorities.
Deficit or debt?
Deficit.
Deficit. Okay.
Debt is a different, longer
Right.
issue. Yeah.
I think the debt will continue to rise.
Of course.
extremely until we make cuts. And the fact that you said we need to make cuts in order to add these new programs
in certain areas,
obviously, is incredibly intelligent. The only way that we're going to add these kind of idealistic opportunities to our lower income families and kids and get them into college for free is by A, raising taxes, or B, cutting other expensive areas.
Would you argue that the best, most effective area to cut would be defense spending?
With the emergence of the unparalleled turmoil in the Middle East right now, I can't say that that's the smartest thing to do. Now, do some areas of defense need to be cut? But all military operations right now, do they need a major cut in their spending? No.
I think we strongly overstate the importance of the ISIS Middle East conflict as a U.S. priority.
It is a little bit of an overshoot. It isn't.
It's a huge overshoot.
But there are U.S. allies and U.S. Foreign airstrike. There are troops.
And so why should the welfare of a Saudi prince or a Middle Eastern semi-dictator take priority over U.S. youth that cannot afford to go to college because of their social circumstances?
Because if World War III starts...
Again, hugely overstated. ISIS is not going to start World War III. Sure. ISIS is a temporary Sunni insurgent movement that is already being pushed back.
Their second in command has been killed by airstrikes. Exactly. Who paid for those airstrikes?
The U.S. government. But we don't need to have... There are certain areas where the U.S. done a great job in defense, but other areas we do not need to have bases. We do not need to have huge bases in Germany and Okinawa, in places that no longer have relevance to our interests. And we spend so much money on this. Talk about cuts. That's what should be cut. That is the biggest area of wasteful spending in this entire country, not welfare.
Yeah, I think there definitely are some areas, I think, both in our federal government and in our military that need to be cut. I think cuts is something that a lot of Republicans talk about. Yep. The sequester happened, and apparently it was 2012, end of the world, and then we were fine.
Yep.
And then the stock market came back, and until this week. Thanks, China. But anyway, we haven't even talked about Trump yet. Do we want to do that?
We haven't. Let's go into Trump. David, what do you think about Trump?
Well, I would personally never support him. I think anyone who says everyone all the Ferguson protesters are legal immigrants and we need to get rid of them.
I think Trump says a lot of very stupid things
for attention.
That's true. But he doesn't need supporters spent when it comes to money.
Exactly.
He has all the money in the world. All he needs are votes now.
The reason Trump can say insane things is because he has no need to play the whole political game. He can fund himself.
He's outside of the political bubble, which is both dangerous and attractive to some people.
Marco Rubio, Jeb Bush, they need to gain these sponsors from Wall Street, and so they need to play this political game. They need to say certain buzzwords. Right. Whereas Trump can do whatever he wants. He doesn't need to have a staff because he has all of his own money. He doesn't need to appeal to these interest groups because he has his own money, which I think is also a bad thing, but in a way it's refreshing because he reveals all of the kind of illusions and superficial nature of the whole political system right now.
Is what you call it.
He's blowing everyone out of the water with his just insane stupidity, which is beautiful. And it's beautiful because it's showing everyone that the whole thing is stupid. Trump isn't the only person that's insane in the GOP. He's the one that's admitting it because he doesn't have to hide it.
Actually, I agree with almost all of what you said. I think that's a really good way of putting it, is that he's so far out of the box of this GOP, of this usual, the buzzwords like we talked about, the trying to get funding, that he can kind of dominate the political scene right now because it's just so interesting to see something like this. We haven't seen anything like this where a presidential candidate is doing really well and has a lot of votes among the people, even though they had no political experience. We haven't seen that since Eisenhower.
Yeah, it's so
the thing about Eisenhower is I feel like he was playing that political. I wasn't alive, obviously. None of us were even close, but he still had to play that kind of low-key game. Ross Perot.
Yeah.
But the thing about Trump is that, like, you ask me, okay, who do you want, Hillary Clinton, or Donald Trump? Give me Donald Trump. I don't want. At least he's honest. At least Donald Trump would never be able to get away with anything.
I can't make a decision between those two, honestly, right now.
Well,
Donald Trump says so much and is so blatant about what he does and what he says. He'd never be able to get away with anything.
That's true.
Okay. Just because Trump is beautiful for exposing the fallacies of the whole political system, he's still a terrible leader. He has a badger.
I think he'd be an excellent leader. It's just his policies I think are terrible.
Yes. Hillary may not fix any of the problems that America's facing on a large scale, but she won't Trump would start a war, or he would just do something.
Against ISIS.
Like, I would be scared of Trump as president. Like, Hillary, I would feel
uncomfortable also,
Hillary
but also much more with Hillary Clinton. I'd feel very uncomfortable having her in the office. Knowing that it's secretive, something is always going on behind the scenes. With Trump, I feel like I know exactly what he's doing because he's stupid enough to keep everything he does in public. So both of them have their pros and cons. Both of them would be poor presidents of the United States. I think that's where we're at right now.
That's true. So what other topics do you think we should talk about today?
I think next we have taxes.
Oh, that's a broad one.
Just
taxes on like the 1%.
All right. Well, I would like to raise them in certain areas. I think we should certain things like corporate tax. I can see arguments for the other side, but certain taxes. First of all, Social Security should be reformed. Get rid of the income cap on that. The program's insolvent in a couple of years. There's certain taxes that we really need to increase. And a lot of it's common sense.
That's true. I think we should be talking about the 1% here. The 1% pay for quite a bit of our government expenses. I've seen it as numbers as high as 60%. Not all government expenses, but certain areas. They do a lot for our country. But there are people who accumulate too much money, especially larger businesses. I'm going to name some right now. Comcast, AT&T, that lobby in government and cause corruption. Exactly. And so taxes on larger corporations. Corporations do a lot. I don't know if you've seen lots of maybe Coca-Cola things in order to try to gain the public eye. You've heard of Coca-Cola? I've heard of it too. That try to help social causes and stuff like that.
It's marketing.
It is marketing, and there's probably not enough being done by these larger corporations to help the public interest. And I think corporations are what makes America great, and some also makes them...
They're also strangling America right now.
I can't say that's entirely true. There is a lot of diversity of business in the United States compared to other countries. We have
smaller
a larger economic sphere than other countries like even Taiwan or China.
Okay. And are these bigger companies not... through multinational outsourcing, whatever, are they not directly hurting American manufacturing with things like free trade deals?
I don't think so. I think they're creating jobs. Okay. I think they're generating money and you can see a lot of competition. There's not just
When NAFTA
Coca-Cola.
was enacted, the U.S. lost 5 million jobs.
When what?
When NAFTA was enacted, the U.S. lost 5 million jobs.
What year?
2000 and... it was under... I do not have the year with me.
Okay.
Yes. But the government estimates we lost 5 million jobs because of multinational corporations. This isn't small businesses. I agree with you. So this is not small businesses.
U.S. businesses, U.S.-based businesses are being punished at the same rate as these huge international.
They're being punished more.
U.S. businesses.
Yes.
So what we need to do is foster small businesses, foster local and national, not international businesses, and
taxing the extremely wealthy.
Well, not just individuals, but companies.
Do you mean tariffs like international? Because I'm a huge fan of tariffs. Let's raise the tariffs.
I'm talking more about not individuals. Like, let's just take half of Donald Trump of his income and just give it to the poor. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying companies.
Do you mean corporate tax?
Corporate taxes, yes. Income taxes are fine where they are, but corporate taxes, I'm going to consider myself a moderate Republican.
Yeah.
Corporate taxes, there's something that needs to be done about that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But not individuals. Don't attack the individuals who are successful just because you aren't.
Okay. Do you want to shift back to Donald Trump and speak about?
That's more fun to talk about.
Tell him, Jeb, build the wall. Let's talk about his wall.
Here's some good quotes. Yes, Jeb, his wall. He's a one-issue candidate now. He's always talking about the illegal aliens. He's a protest vote. Yeah. We've all heard his quotes about the walls and the rapists and all this fun stuff.
The scheming Mexican government.
The scheming, cunning Mexican government. He's a one-issue candidate now. People think of him and they think, I'm angry. I'm angry at Obama and the left, and I'm angry at all these people taking my job, so what am I going to do? Donald Trump.
Okay, so who do you think, this is going to be kind of maybe the biggest question here, presidential-wise, who do you think will be running, not vice presidential, but just presidents in 2016?
Oh.
I think depending on what Jeb Bush says next, it could be either him, it could be Marco Rubio, honestly.
Yeah.
My top two options for the GOP would be Marco Rubio and Jeb Bush. The Democrats,
actually, me too.
The Democrats, I would love it to be Bernie because Bernie.
It's going to be Hillary.
Sadly enough, it's going to be Hillary.
Along with, who do you think would be the second one in line? Bernie?
The second
or possibly Do you think Joe
Is
Biden
Joe
has any
Biden,
chance?
has he announced yet?
He has not, but it is very, very likely that he will run.
I feel like he could.
I think he's kind of you saw him in the vice presidential debate last year.
He was
Or not
good.
last year,
He was so
multiple
good
years
in that.
ago.
He was so good in
immature.
that.
He was a child.
He
did not-
won the
But
debate.
that's what he's going to run
He
on.
won the
He's going
debate.
to run on like.
He won't get any votes. I'm sorry, compared to
Okay.
Sanders or
He
Clinton.
cannot possibly be more immature than Donald Trump.
Oh, I
Who is
absolutely
leading the polls.
agree with that. But if he's not going against Donald Trump, he will not win.
Oh no, of course not, because it'll be Hillary. Like the party leaders have already picked her. Even if most Americans want Bernie to win, the party leaders are backing Hillary.
Because of the distrust with Hillary Clinton right now, and that will probably resonate for the next year or so, do we see this election being extremely close? Like, not just extremely close, like, but I mean, like, going to the House of Representatives close.
I wouldn't say that. Because, wait till Hillary, she has so much financial backing.
What percent of the
Wait till
popular
her
vote
ads campaign gets going.
did Obama win in the last election?
60-something?
60%? I thought it was 54.
It was in the 50s.
55.
53. Okay,
Right.
so do you think those 3%
Uh-huh.
could be swayed by, assuming, let's say it's Hillary Clinton versus Marco Rubio?
That's a closer election.
That's a
If
close
it's
election.
Marco Rubio probably has some of the Hispanic vote, a larger percentage than
Yeah.
the previous
He's
years.
a Cuban.
His mom worked at
Cubans
Walmart when he was a
are
kid.
this-
His dad is from Cuba. That's a pretty good.
Most Salvadorians,
story.
Mexicans, Guatemalans will look at a Cuban
He's
and think
not
him
a-
as foreign as a
He's not a
Caucasian
super rich
Anglo-American.
Politician, not super. Hillary Clinton
No.
isn't super rich, but she has money.
Marco Rubio has the better chance of winning the
Jeb,
Jeb
my
contest.
guess, if it's likely, just from knowing past political elections and stuff, all presidential stuff, it's probably going to be Hillary Clinton, Jeb Bush. That is probably going to be what it is.
That would be sad.
That would not be fun. We have another Clinton and another Bush, and that'd be really disappointing.
They're
And
both
honestly,
corrupt.
I don't know if I'd vote for either of those, because all of us in this room
Yeah.
will be voting in the next election.
They're both
Yeah.
corrupt. They're both political insiders. They're both not going to be able to deal
So I'm
with-
going to have to pull for Marco Rubio. I think the most interesting election we could see here, not entertaining but interesting, would be Marco Rubio versus Bernie Sanders. That would be an
Yes.
incredibly
Yes.
close election.
I would love
That's
to
probably
see.
the best case scenario.
That would be amazing.
Both of them are kind of
Or Rand
underdogs.
Rand Paul is.
Rand Paul has no chance, but libertarianism is growing. It's a
Because people don't want to identify with the GOP anymore,
Yeah.
especially younger people, which is a shame because of older white guys in the GOP
It's social
that have
issues.
said
it's social issues.
it's social issues. But now that the Supreme Court has struck down laws restricting gay marriage, that's not going to be a party platform issue anymore.
There's still issues like abortion. There's still
That's
issues.
true. That's true. But the big one was gay marriage, right? And now that
Also, race
that's
issues. A lot of
I know, but to a
Americans-
lesser extent. But to most of the, would you say the biggest social topic last year was gay marriage?
Yeah, last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now that that's
Well,
on the
no,
table,
with the whole Ferguson and race, there was a lot. And
gun rights also.
gun rights was a
Gun
yeah.
rights is like.
Gun rights was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But anyway, my point is, without that on the table, with gay marriage officially great, it's done. That's all that's said and done.
The GOP in the
The
future.
GOP, now that actually helps the GOP because now they're not going to be polarizing people because they don't have to say anything about it.
Oh, they have so much more to polarize about.
I know of course they do, and the Democrats have some things that polarize people. Also,
definitely,
this is political parties we're talking about.
Yeah.
But with the big one off the table, with gay marriage off the table, it's
Gay marriage was only the big one because of last year's circumstances with the Supreme Court case. If next year the main issue could be gun rights, the main issue could
Right.
be
Correct.
it could be something like gay marriage hasn't been this permanent giant social issue.
I think it
It's-
has.
Well, it's been important.
I think it's
been important,
the biggest
but
one.
It was not the key giant issue until last year.
Well, I think it was a huge
because
one
of
in the
the Supreme Court
2012
case.
election. I think lots of people.
That was the economy.
Mitt Romney lost a good solid number of votes because he didn't support gay marriage. I think
Also
that's-
because of his comments about 42%.
That's true. I think Romney was obviously.
He seemed out of touch.
Probably, yeah.
He seemed out of touch.
That's true. So did McCain.
Yeah.
But with that off the table, that will actually, it'll, to a lesser extent, social issues will be not as important in this
Because
election.
younger conservatives tend to stick with fiscal conservatism, but on social issues they're pretty much the same as the average left-wing Democrat. And so what you might see in the future,
Because social issues are on such a person-to-person basis, it's so disappointing
It shouldn't be
that
state
parties,
policy.
It shouldn't be a party policy. It should be personal values and then economic, foreign policy, taxes, all these things that actually have to do with our political system. Those things should be what our parties focus on. It's a little disappointing to see social issues take over the political sphere during elections.
yeah, and in some cases they should be dealt with because there's certain issues like with gay marriage. This thing like gay marriage last year, the government needs to take a certain role in this because it obviously was not being addressed
Well,
satisfactorily by
it would have
states.
gone to the states had it not been decided by the federal.
And that would have taken
And that can
decades.
be, it would take a long time for it to be accepted, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
All right.
Do you want to end it with your question on the bottom over there?
Yeah, so the last question we're going to address today is communism real good or just meh?
Meh.
All right, we'll leave you with that one. Thanks
about
for
it.
listening.
Stay great, America.